The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And tonight we're going to preview our upcoming softball season. We invited guests, head softball coach Liz Wagner, along with a couple of our players, Laura Nowak and Sam Vonsina. So please stay tuned after the break where I'll be joined by my first guest this evening, Liz Wagner.
What makes D3 special is the ability to participate in my team and within the broader community.
The perfect ending to a perfect season.
Being a D3 student athlete has completely expanded my life.
I learned how to lead. I really found a voice.
What time is it?
It's more about the experience rather than just a sport itself.
Without the experience of being a Division III student athlete, I wouldn't be the person who I am today.
NCAA Division III. Discover, develop, dedicate.
Welcome back to the show. Now joining me in studio is head softball coach Liz Wagner. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Thank you, Geoff.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a local girl. I come from Sydney, right down the road, about 20 miles. I've lived there all my life, three-sport athlete. Was recruited more for softball than other sports, and that was my love. So I ended up going to the University of Massachusetts on a softball scholarship, and had a great time there. A lot of ups and downs, which I think made me a stronger person with, injuries and a red shirt year and just, a lot of adversity I faced, which, I think is a blessing in disguise. So
now UMass, you're a left-handed pitcher,
Yep.
which are pretty rare. Coaches like to find themselves a left-handed pitcher,
Yeah.
and you kind of filled that bill. Now you played for someone who, in the Oneonta graduate,
Yes.
one of the winningest coach in Division I history softball.
Nope, but she's
Pretty
one of the
close?
winningest active coaches, if
Okay.
not the winningest active coach
Lane
currently.
Sortino, who was
Yes.
also in our Hall of Fame. She was in
Yes.
our inaugural class, so that must have been pretty special.
Three-sport Hall of Famer
Yes.
at Oneonta State.
Yeah,
so.
she certainly was a great player. During a time when women's athletics was just kind of starting here and growing, when she was coaching you, before we talk about your athletic experience, did she ever talk about any of her experiences from Oneonta, because where you were from Sydney? And
She didn't very often. She didn't bring it up very often. We all sort of, it was fun to imagine Elaine as a catcher, because she's, was probably in her 40s when she coached us, and it was just, it was interesting for us to see her and picture her, because she was such a professional. To picture her as an athlete was, it was just mind-blowing for us.
Right. Now, what was it like playing for her?
It was great. Elaine has an ability to push people to limits that I think most athletes don't think that they can go to, and a lot of tough love, but she's also, she was, when all was said and done, my biggest fan, outside of my parents, probably always my biggest fan. So, and I knew that, and I think that helped me a lot get through, 5 years of, a difficult major, coming off a medical red shirt, wearing a lot of different hats in my career there.
Now, during your career, you pitched in 2 College World Series?
We competed in 2 College World Series. I threw in the 1998 College World Series in relief in the second game, I think.
Okay, and what kind of an experience was that for you?
It was amazing. It sort of, all the good and bad and indifferent times you go through, it's all worth it when you're standing on the mound in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
It makes everything make sense in that one moment. So
now, so would you, maybe talk a little bit about maybe your student athlete experience at a Division I level, because we've had some other coaches on the show from Division I, and they talked a little bit about their experience. Can you just talk a little bit about how your experience was at the Division I level as an athlete?
I think that there's, I like to tell my students that they're very, very lucky in the support that they have here. I was very, very supported. But there certainly was so many hours of athletics, obviously within NCAA restrictions, but so many hours. And there's a lot more weeks of practice. There's a lot more, the individual skill sessions throughout the winter that, my kids, maybe they say that they wish they had them, but I think it's just the Division III experience, I think, is really, it's unique, and I think it allows my student athletes and all the student athletes here at Oneonta State to have much more well-rounded experience, because the community service, the fundraising, all the amazing speakers we get in here, I think is something that I didn't get to experience as much as my athletes get to, not even remotely close.
So the time commitment at the Division I level is certainly a little more intense.
The athletic time commitment.
Right,
I think the time commitment's probably about the same. It's just, it's different
right.
in where the time's allocated, I think. So,
So that experience for you was outstanding and kind of got you to maybe where you are now.
I think so.
Involved in coaching, and I mean, what kind of an influence do you think Elaine had on you as a coach as you're doing it now?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I think what I respect the most about Elaine is that she's also an administrator, and an amazing administrator. She actually retired from coaching during, I might get this wrong, but my third year maybe. She retired because the administration, she was an associate athletic director, one of them, and they put a little pressure on her to maybe become full-time as an associate athletic director, because she was very, very good at that job. She retired, turned the program over to our associate head coach, Mona Stevens, and feather in Mona's hat, back in Utah, her alma mater, she was offered the head coaching job that summer. So sort of backtracked and took that coaching job and said, Elaine, in fact, I'm not staying here to take over the program. And I think Elaine couldn't think of anyone else she trusted her baby with, her program, and she came out of retirement and took us to the World Series the next 2 years. Yeah. And she's still coaching, what is, 12 years later. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing that she almost gave it up 12 years ago.
Now, after you graduated from UMass, why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the transition years and to where you got to Oneonta 4 years ago, right? This is your fourth season?
Fourth season, yep.
So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the experiences you had as grad assistant coach and working in private business and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I really didn't plan on being a coach. I did as a high school student athlete. Even in college, I thought maybe I'll be a coach someday. But graduated with a degree in environmental design, pre-architecture, and thought I'm going to just be this big famous architect someday. And and I worked in the field for 2 years or so, right in the heart of Harvard Square, which was a fantastic experience. Wouldn't trade it for the world. But I, just woke up one day, decided I don't want to be an architect. I don't want to go to grad school for that, and found myself within about 3 months after applying to a bunch of jobs around the country, surprisingly getting offered a couple, being flown to Ohio for one interview, and it was really just kind of a crazy time for me, and ended up in Alabama of all places. So I ended up at Troy University in Alabama as a graduate assistant coach, and went down going to pursue a completely different master's degree, and changed my mind when I got there and pursued my MBA. So got my master's of business administration.
Yep. And then you still stayed with the coaching?
I did. I came back to Boston, and I immediately took a job after one season at Troy. I took a job as an assistant coach at Harvard University in Boston. So coached there for 2 seasons, and and worked a little bit for corporate New Balance and marketing promotions, a couple other small jobs, and just kind of tossed around a little bit. And the job at Oneonta opened up, I think, for the 3rd time in 4 years. Right. And I have enough friends here that are former athletes that, just really encouraged me to, you haven't settled into a career yet, you love ball, why don't you just put in a resume?
Right. Now,
so I did, and I thought there was no way I'd get even a call back, because I hadn't had any head coaching experience at that point.
Right. Now, what was it like coaching at Harvard?
I think Harvard actually helped prepare me for Division III, because Ivy Leagues are somewhere between, they're Division I, and they're very, very strong Division I athletically. Right. But I think they have much more of a balance in some ways, as far as a little more restrictions on the hours, similar to D3. Yeah. Academics, just, it was hard for me to understand. I had kids not coming to games, big Ivy League games, at home because they had an exam, and instead of rescheduling it, they were, a starter, and I'm like, where is she? She's in an exam. So I think that helped me, and just the different dynamic. It helped probably with my transition, because it's still different. Division III, I still am trying to learn who the schools are and the teams are. Every year there's half a dozen to a dozen teams, some of which we play on our schedule I've never even heard of, right, because there are a lot of smaller institutions across the country. So I'm still sort of getting my feet wet, and it sounds crazy after 4 years, but familiarizing myself with what schools are out there.
Right. Now, so the transition really wasn't that bad. I mean, like you said, maybe the you're the true student athlete, you know, Division III, and so that philosophy is kind of, you know, you've settled into that philosophy. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, I talk to Tracy all the time about how I just think it's amazing the things that our student athletes get to learn that I never got a chance to learn. The support, the career development, you know, I just feel that there's so much support. We were given athletic support and academic support. I mean, I went to study hall as a freshman 5 days a week. Every school night we had 2 hours of study hall. So, you know, academically it was phenomenal at UMass. I think that the thing that's different here is there's everything, so much community service, and, you know, and I think that most of our student athletes really appreciate that and grab onto that because that's one of my favorite parts of the job. Now,
if we can stay a little bit on the community service, now you're also our coordinator of CHAMPS Life Skills and SAC. How is it working with those groups of student athletes and some of the things that we are doing? I mean, we didn't have a chance to get you on the show when we had them in here, but now we have an opportunity to maybe just talk a little bit about that part of it and how you think it fits into your team, your program.
I think it's really important, and, you know, I feel lucky because I can, obviously, you know, we take the polls and the surveys from all the students, but, you know, I can take things that are a little bit close to my heart, and, you know, Tracy and Coach Cashman, Colleen and I, we all talk it over and, you know, try to bring in sort of new ideas and new things. You know, we do a lot with anti-hazing and, you know, Facebook and, you know, drinking responsibly and all those things, and then we kind of did a different turn this year and we went with John Underwood in the fall, which I think he was very well received. And then Deanna Latson. Nutrition's really huge on our team. We've got so many athletes really interested in learning how to fuel themselves correctly, and, you know, I think she was just phenomenal. She was one of the best speakers from what I've heard that has come in recent years. And then, you know, this next fall we're going to switch gears and go to more career planning and managing your time, and, you know, how do you prepare yourself to leave here and go into, you know.
So you think that all those things are very impactful for not only your own program, but just the, you know, the athletic department itself?
Definitely.
Well, that's certainly good, and we certainly thank you for doing all the things that you do in that area as well. So, because we know now you're in season, and it can be kind of crazy. So, let's talk about your season. We've gone down to Florida. We're off to a 5-4 start. We played a few teams that were in the national rankings.
Yes, we played Messiah, who was ranked first when we played them.
Right.
And the score doesn't show how closely we played them or how well matched we were, I should say.
Right.
You know, we happened to have just a plethora of errors, and it was fluke errors. We only gave up 1 earned run, so, you know, technically we could have had a 1-0 ball game. They've got one of the strongest pitchers I've ever seen in Division III by far.
Yeah. Now, some of the other teams you played down there, Augustana.
Yeah, and they jumped into the rankings, I think, in the number 8 spot, I believe. Yeah, and we actually beat them.
Yeah,
that was our first game out.
That was your first game out.
Very
and then, of course, you played Capital as well. And just, lost to them late?
Lost to them 4-3. And it was a team that, you know, I hope Capital coach doesn't watch this, but we weren't terribly impressed by. It was a team we felt, wow, how did we lose to that team 4-3? Right. Very good team, but by no means somebody that we felt we should have taken a loss to. Right. So it was tough to see them with I think a 9-0 record in the 12th spot in the national rankings.
Right after that.
It's tough, but, you know, we're still working on meshing as a team, getting out the kinks. We've got a lot of, I believe, 11 or 12 new student athletes on our team this year. Right. As opposed to
well, let's talk about
7.
some of those student athletes and maybe some of the top players, and then maybe we can talk about some of the newcomers that we think will have an impact on our team. So why don't we talk about some of the returning players? Okay. In particular, maybe Bethany Truax, or, you know, even Laura will have her on the show and talk a little bit about her, but our 2 pitchers.
We've got a very strong core of returners. You know, I think at this point, all of which either have started or will be starting. I think actually all are starting right now. You know, we've got, like you said, Bethany and Katie. Those are 2 that are, you know, solid in our infield right now. Ellie Hellstrom's transitioned and kind of platooned back and forth from catcher to first base. Katie Hackenberg, Allie Hellstrom, and Laura Noack are our 3 captains this year. You know, so that's our infield. Laura at second base, she's been there since she's been a freshman and just solid. She's, you know, she and Allie are probably our defensive specialists. They're just solid. You know, they're there all the time and they work so well together. And, you know, Laura Noack with Bethany. Right. It's just kind of like a fine-oiled machine, the way that they know what the other person's going to do. Right. So.
Now, who do we have in the outfield?
We've got Stacy in center. Stacy can also play all fields. You know, she's very unselfish. She'll just do what's best for the team. Nobody else wants her to leave center, but you know, she may find herself in other fields sometimes.
Right.
But her range is just, it's incredible. Very fast, very natural athletic ability in her.
Now, our two pitchers, two Jessicas.
Yeah, we've got Jessica Giuliano from New Jersey. We call her Jersey. And then Jessica Bartolski is Bart. And the two of them were our primary pitchers last year as freshmen. Right. Both had pretty solid years. Both earned all tournament at the SUNY tournament. Yeah. You know, and both have come out very strong. You know, our pitching ERAs are lower than I could have imagined this early on, so I'm pleased, and I don't think they've even gotten to their potential, and they're still working very hard on.
Right, still young, still learning some things, and working with and in being a pitcher, certainly I'm sure that probably is an advantage as well, to be able to work with them and try and get them to do some things that you might have. It's
fun. In particular, Jersey just learned a drop curve this year. She's got a great curve. She throws it very hard, and we're learning a crossover drop curve. So it's, you know, it's fun for her to learn something different, to give the batters a different look.
Right.
You know, and Bart's worked tremendously hard on her off speed right now, because her forte is a rise ball for the most part. That's her big pitch. You know, so they're at the point where they're developing. Instead of being throwers, they're becoming pitchers, I think.
Good.
So.
Newcomers. Any in particular that are either starting or being impactful on our team right now? You know, I think the biggest newcomers on the team are probably, you know, and we've got a lot of newcomers, but I think Jill Serraro and Sammy Von Sina right now, you know, both tremendously strong hitters, both power hitters, and they've both been pretty consistently in our top 5 in our lineup. Every time we do a lineup card, they're just right there. Jill came, she's a John Jay kid, which is one of the strongest programs, I think, in the state. Very disciplined, great summer ball program. Sammy, who you know you're going to talk to later in the show, she's a great player. Came to us from SUNY Fredonia, where she was. We'll let her talk about that, but she was a freshman superstar. So we're really happy to have her. Now, how do you get those players to mesh in with the other group? You know, the newcomers.
I think the two of them in particular just have gained so much respect because they're so diehard and just give so much to everything that they do. You know, whether at practice, in games, those are two of the kids that are hardest on themselves. Right. You know, just they're their own worst critic.
Right.
You know,
well, which is good.
We'll tell them it's okay. You know, it's a great cut. You know, it's a nice line drive out, and they're mad at themselves. So, and that's good. That's why they continue to get better. And you know, I think defensively they're equally as strong as they are offensively. So.
Right. As our season goes in, we're hoping that we can get back into the SUNY tournament again this year. Last year we won a few games, which we hadn't done in a couple years, and so we actually made some strides there. Anything else in particular that you're hoping for? I mean, obviously your goal is to go to the NCAA tournament and maybe make the College World Series, but
I think this year I think if we always talk about AOs. It's just AOs, the automatic outs. Yeah. Once we can take care of the AOs, because the kids are making it's absolutely spectacular plays, ridiculous plays. Right. Especially right now, especially our corners. Katie Hackenberg has come up with some, line drives that you think are just a base hit. And Allie Hellstrom at first, she made one of the nicest plays I've seen in any division or any level, including the top level. A play at first that should have been a triple down to the right field pole. Right. That would have scored 3, I believe. She did with the bases loaded, and we're making those plays. And it's just the automatic outs. I think just that comes with focus, playing together. Right. Getting out on the dirt, seeing dirt for the first time under their feet in Florida. Those things are sometimes you take for granted. The automatic outs. So once we seal that up, I think we're very strong this year.
Well, we certainly hope that we make a lot of those automatic outs during the season, and we got a lot of home games coming up in April. And we certainly want to thank you for coming by today.
Thanks for having me.
We'd like to thank Coach Wagner for coming by tonight, and join me after the break, where I'll be joined in studio by Senior Captain Laura Nowak.
Where's my husband? Where's my husband?
Stop.
How's she doing? 2,
She was
3.
the passenger. I was T-boned on the passenger side.
We just had some wine. I wasn't even drunk. I was just buzzed.
What? You were just buzzed? Well, sir, you didn't tell us that. In that case, she's just fine.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Really?
No, not really.
Buzz driving.
What?
Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is senior softball captain Laura Nowak. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thanks, Jeff.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a fourth-year player, senior this year. I'm from Akron, New York, graduated from Akron High School, and I play second base for the Red Dragons.
Now, did you play anything besides softball at Akron High School?
I played soccer, basketball, and softball, and I was also in band. So.
Okay, a little musical.
Oh, yeah.
Good for you, good for you. We've had quite a few seniors on the show this year, and we usually like to talk a little bit about in the beginning their four-year experience and what it's meant to them to be an athlete at Oneonta, you know, before we kind of get into talking maybe a little bit about this year's team. So why don't you talk a little bit about the entire program, you know, the athletics, academics at SUNY?
I came in and Coach wasn't here yet, so I started my fall ball off with Spranzy, and it was interesting and it was fun, and I wouldn't still be here if I wasn't on the team. I probably would have transferred out after my freshman year, closer to home. But I decided to declare a math major and continue to play, and have found some best friends that I'll have forever, and I love it here now.
Now, math major, your education?
Nope, just math.
Just math?
I'm going to go to grad school next spring for education.
Okay,
so.
and hopefully you're looking to be a math teacher?
We'll see. We'll see where life takes me.
Well, you could be a teacher and a coach, which is
Very
nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
What would you say about your softball experience overall? I mean, you said, you know, you started with our assistant coach, John Speranzi, who's been with the program for over 20 years. I mean, he connects us really the generations, more or less. You know, you said this experience has really kept you here at Oneonta. What else about the college campus, the life and what goes on here that's been exciting for you as a student?
Oneonta is a small town, and I come from a small town, so it was very similar to home for me. Coach came in, and Coach and Speranzi they balanced each other out very nicely, so it was a very family feeling when I came to campus. It was, you get so close to your professors and your friends, and you see the same people on campus, so you get a very welcoming environment every time you step on to go to classes, and you get to I see my athletes with me all the time. I'm living with our third baseman, Katie Hackenberg, next year, so I love it. From seniors to freshmen on the team, we have a real great group of girls that love.
And most of our athletes that have been on the show say that same thing. I mean, the family kind of atmosphere that's built not only by the coaches, but just the campus itself has really been a big attraction for a lot of student athletes here. Let's talk a little bit about this season. You know, we had Coach on. She talked about, you know, we're off to a 5-4 start. We played some good teams. I mean, you know, you say, oh, if we're only 5-4, but, you know, some of the teams we played down there certainly would prepare us for our SUNY schedule, which is very competitive. So, you know, what kinds of things in the beginning of the season did you see that, you know, as we go forward from the team, what do you think your expectations are?
I think our record doesn't reflect the potential that we have. We have freshmen that are very, very strong athletes that we expect a lot out of this year, and I think as long as we stay meshed the way we are and just continue to grow with chemistry, we have the talent. We just need to make sure that our heads are in the game and win the games that we're meant to win, and we'll definitely come out with some big wins this year as well.
Now in the SUNY, last year we won a couple games in the SUNY tournament and got ourselves kind of in that semi-final round, as you say, because it's a double elimination. So what do you think as a senior captain? You know, what kinds of things do you talk about with the team about, you know, how important it is to get there and win those games?
I let them know my freshman and sophomore year we didn't make it, and we should have. We lost to teams that were weak compared to us. So we just let them know that we need to make the plays that we should be making, as Coach said, our automatic outs, and win those games. My goal this year, just to start, is to host SUNYX. So that definitely within reach for us.
Well, I tell you, the first year they ever started this double elimination on campus, we actually hosted up on top of the field where we play, and it was, as you know, it can be pretty windy and cold up there, even though the temperatures might not be. But so certainly we hope that we are home for that, because it'd be exciting to watch. It's a great tournament. And we certainly wish you the best of luck, and we thank you for coming by today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, I'd like to thank senior softball captain Laura Nowak for coming by this evening. And after the break, I'll be joined by junior Sam Boncina.
Hey, guys.
I wouldn't start those here. ATVs give off sparks. You could start a wildfire.
Sorry.
See ya. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is junior Sam Voncina. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
I am a SUNY Fredonia transfer. I am a junior. I played my freshman and sophomore year at Fredonia. I graduated from Lakeshore High School, which is about 10 minutes out of Buffalo, where I played basketball and softball.
You went to Fredonia for 2 years. Freshman year, you were all-conference player,
Yes.
SUNYAC all-conference. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we hope that this year you'll kind of contribute that way, we hope. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience there, and then just kind of maybe go through transferring here. You came in the fall, so.
At Fredonia, the softball team was fantastic. I loved playing with them. The girls were great. I just wasn't really there academically. I did not like my major I was in. I was a childhood education major. When I came over to Oneonta, I transferred to straight English, which I love here. I love everything about the academics here and the softball team. Usually you don't mix the two because you don't find greatness in both, but here I just love both of them.
So coming here, when you were looking to transfer, had you contacted Coach Wagner?
I had actually contacted Laura Nowak first because I played summer ball with her, and I told her that I was thinking about transferring, and she had tried to convince me 2 years prior to that to come. And I finally made the decision, and then she had told Coach, and then Coach was like, she tried her hardest to get me here because I could not find anywhere to live at first, and it was just everything was going wrong. And then I finally found a place to live, and I came and met Coach, and she had remembered me, and then everything just went from there.
So for you, the transition was probably a little better than most transfers because of the connection with Laura. What's it like to be able to play alongside Laura now as teammates?
Nothing's changed. She's still confident as ever. She's a great leader. Just going from summer ball to here, usually summer ball is more, you have more fun.
Right.
But here, it's still fun, but we're really good.
Right. Now, as you look at this year's team, we've played 9 games so far, and any observations coming in, from Fredonia, different program? I mean, what kinds of things are different?
Like I said, I love Fredonia, and I don't like to talk bad about it, but there it was more about the fun aspect. Like, you never really anticipated taking 2 games from Cortland, when here we have all the chance in the world to take 2 games.
Right.
And everybody's looking forward to it. On the field, our chemistry is great. Off the field, our chemistry is great. We're not just friends on the field, but off, which is awesome.
Right. So you're saying that really, and again, this isn't a show to talk about other SUNYs as far as that goes, but just the expectation level to win and be more successful, you find that as an athlete that it fits the way you like to play.
Yes. Yes.
Now, some of the other players on the team coming in as a transfer, I mean, there are, you got to lump together with all the newcomers. I mean, some of the other newcomers that are with us this year that you think are contributing with us right now?
Yeah, as Coach mentioned, Jill, she transferred in from Cobleskill. She is a great pitcher / infielder and an awesome hitter. Corinne, who just recently got injured, she was a very good fielder. She had good eyes at the plate. Our freshman class, probably one of the best freshman classes I've ever seen. And it's just, they're going to be really good for when our seniors this year leave. So
now, do you look at yourself as, I mean, this is really kind of like your 4th year of softball per se, with your injury and missing a season, and so, I mean, do you look at yourself as a team leader, even though this is only your first year?
I enjoy being on the team, obviously. I don't per se consider myself a leader because I like when everybody's involved.
Right.
I'm vocal, yes. I'm very loud. But as leader-wise, I like to stand up and help people and stuff like that, but I also look for critiques back. So I like to look at it as everybody helping everybody type of deal.
Well, which is certainly being a team. I mean, they say there's no I in team, so certainly I'm sure Coach Wagner appreciates the fact that those are the kind of players that we have in our program to help us be successful. Where do you, now when you were at Fredonia, you know, did you ever play in the SUNY tournament when you were out at Fredonia? So this
No.
So this could be a different experience
Yes.
this year. The expectation is to get to the SUNY tournament and try and, you know,
Yeah.
obviously win it.
And
so
it's a greater chance of happening than there ever was at Fredonia. Like I said, I don't like to knock them down, but here, just the intensity level, the ability to just be on the field and play like we're going to win is just amazing.
Well, we certainly hope that everyone gets there, and we certainly welcome you to our program.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming by this evening.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank all our guests tonight from the softball program, head coach Liz Wagner, senior captain Laura Nowak, and junior Sam Voncina. And we'd like to remind you that April's a pretty busy month here for us in athletics. A lot of home games going on. Please check our website and the hotline. As you know, the weather always plays a little havoc on our schedule, so for the latest updates, please check our web and our hotline. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Inside Red Dragon Sports, and we hope you'll join us next Monday evening.